When we step into an airport, it's easy to be captivated by the sleek planes lined up on the runway. But here's the thing, not every airplane makes it to the airports we see today. Some are so strange they seem straight out of a sci-fi movie rather than real-life aviation history. From massive wooden giants to planes powered entirely by sunlight. Here are some of the most bizarre aircraft you'll never spot at the airport. Hi there! Before we get started, why not take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel? It's a simple click that helps us bring you more amazing content. All set? Awesome! Let's take off. Starting off with a plane that makes absolutely no sense today. The Hughes H-4 Hercules, better known as the Spruce Goose, is a gargantuan flying boat. Yep, you heard that right, boat. But this is not just any flying boat. This massive aircraft has a wingspan of 319 feet, which, by the way, is longer than a football field. And it looks like it was plucked straight from a science fiction dream. As if that were not bizarre enough, this aviation anomaly is made of wood and is the largest flying boat ever built. But don't let its insane material choice and whimsical nickname fool you. This plane was an engineering juggernaut born from sheer necessity. Let me explain. Designed during World War II to haul troops and supplies across U-boat-infested waters, this wooden beast was a wartime innovation sparked by material shortages. You see, during the Second World War, metal like aluminum was reserved for high-priority military needs. And so when Howard Hughes and his team were tasked to build a plane, they had to think outside the box. Their solution was Duramold, a plywood and resin composite that made the Hercules possible. The idea was simple. Build a flying colossus capable of transporting 150,000 pounds of troops, tanks, and supplies across U-boat-infested waters. But simple doesn't mean easy, and by the time it was completed in 1947, the war already was over. Powered by 8 roaring engines, it could carry 150,000 pounds of cargo, including 2 Sherman tanks. However, with all that power, it only flew once on a flight that lasted just 26 seconds, climbing 70 feet above the water. Today, the Spruce Goose sits proudly at the Evergreen Aviation and Space Museum, reminding us that sometimes even our most bizarre creations can inspire awe. And speaking of bizarre, have you ever heard of the NASA AD-1? Well, stay tuned because that plane had everyone scratching their heads. Whenever we hear about flying saucers, the first thing we think of is aliens. However, the Avro VZ9AV Avro car, although it looked like it was anything but alien, an ambitious 1950s project by Avro Canada. The Avro car aimed to redefine military aviation, and in a way, it did. You see, this experimental craft wasn't just bizarre, it was groundbreaking. Designed for vertical takeoff and landing, or VTOL, the Avro car was made to be a tactical, runway-free aircraft for the U.S. Army. At 18 feet, about the size of 2 compact cars parked side by side and just 3.5 feet thick. The dish-shaped wonder featured a 124-blade turbo-rotor engine that allowed it to hover and maneuver. Using the Coanda effect, a phenomenon where a fluid like air or water tends to stick to a curved surface rather than flowing straight past it, the plane aimed to cling to air like glue. It even promised a hover range of 25 miles while carrying up to 1,000 pounds. But before you go crying Roswell and Alien, the Avro car wasn't exactly a success. Despite its futuristic flair, the Avro car wobbled, literally. Stability issues were a major concern, leading to hubcapping, a kind of wild spinning motion that ultimately grounded the Avro car's lofty dreams. While the project was canceled in 1961, today it remains an icon of Cold War innovation and aerospace daring. But sadly, you won't be seeing this alien ship at the airport anytime soon. In more ways than one, the Northrop YB-49 wasn't just a plane, it was a glimpse into the future of aviation. When you think futuristic, this is probably what comes to mind. A sleek, jet-powered flying wing with no fuselage or tail, slicing through the sky like something out of a sci-fi movie. The YB-49 had a 172-foot wingspan, that was quite literally wider than the length of a basketball court. And as if that wasn't crazy enough, this plane had 8 turbojet engines that roared it to speeds of 493 miles per hour. That's not just fast, that's a statement. Developed right after World War II, the YB-49 was designed for long-range bombing missions, capable of hauling 16,000 pounds of explosives over 4,000 miles. But here's the crazy part. Its cutting-edge design wasn't just about brute force. With a reduced radar cross-section and incredible fuel efficiency, it laid the groundwork for stealth technology decades before it even became mainstream. Sadly, brilliance has its challenges. Stability issues and tragic accidents like the crash of one prototype in 1948 proved to be a worthy opponent. In the end, the YB-49 never made it into service. Its legacy, however, lives on in stealth legends like the B-2 Spirit, which, by the way, looks eerily like the retired YB-49. Now, if you thought this flying wing was wild, wait until you hear about a plane designed to look like a kite and is powered by the sun. When it comes to weird, the NASA Helios prototype takes the cake. This is a plane with a wingspan longer than a Boeing 747, but still somehow so lightweight and futuristic it could almost float on sunlight. Designed by NASA and named the Helios prototype, this aircraft is an engineering marvel designed to soar into the stratosphere and rewrite what we thought planes could do. Stretching 247 feet or 75 meters, this unmanned aerial vehicle wasn't just big, it was groundbreaking. After all, it was roughly the length of 7 school buses. Developed under NASA's ERAST program, Helios was a flying lab powered by solar cells and hydrogen fuel cells, making it a beacon of sustainable aviation. Built with advanced composites like Kevlar and carbon fiber, Helios looked more like a glider on steroids than anything you'd see at your local airport. But this wasn't just for show, because its all-wing design made it ultra-efficient. And although it might seem like a theoretical aircraft, on August 13, 2001, it shattered records, climbing to an awe-inspiring 96,863 feet, or 29,524 meters. For context, that's 3 times higher than Mount Everest. Sadly, the Helios prototype met its end on June 26, 2003, during a routine systems checkout flight over the Pacific Ocean. Midway through the flight, turbulence combined with critical design changes caused the aircraft to lose stability. In the end, the immense strain led to structural failure, and the Helios broke apart, crashing into the ocean. Investigators later identified 2 main causes: inadequate analysis methods and configuration changes that compromised its robustness. While the crash marked the end of the program, it provided invaluable lessons for future high-altitude and sustainable flight projects. But if you thought Helios was wild, wait until you meet the next bizarre flyer, the massive flying pancake. So far, we've talked about a flying saucer, a flying wing, and a flying boat. Well, it's time to talk about a flying pancake. Yep, pancake. The Vought V173, aka the Flying Pancake, is one of aviation's most bizarre creations. Designed by Charles H. Zimmerman in the 1940s, this experimental plane was built for performance at slow speeds. Think bird-like agility, not jet-like ferocity. So, what did he make? Charles came up with a flat, disc-shaped aircraft that looks more like a UFO from a retro sci-fi flick than something meant to soar through the skies. With a compact 28-foot wide frame, which is about the size of 2 minivans parked side by side, this plane was powered by 2 80-horsepower engines. These engines spun enormous propellers that looked like oversized fan blades, essentially turning the pancake into a flying kitchen appliance. As you would expect, when it came to speed, this plane wasn't breaking records, but it still managed to wow onlookers by staying aloft at impossibly slow speeds, even when tilting at dramatic angles. With over 190 test flights, this wacky plane didn't have the perfect takeoffs and landings. In fact, they were described as a bit of a circus act. But when Charles Lindbergh himself hopped in for a test flight and gave it a nod, you knew this wasn't just a quirky idea. This plane even paved the way for future innovations like the Vought XF-5U. But if you thought this pancake was strange, wait till you hear about the next plane that somehow managed to get pregnant. From a plane's name, it's easy to know how weird it is, but nothing can prepare you for the Boeing 377PG, aka the Pregnant Guppy. This plane was so massive and oddly shaped that it quite literally looked like it swallowed another aircraft whole. Looks aside, the Pregnant Guppy was an aviation masterpiece from the 1960s that didn't just push boundaries, it redefined them. You see, this oversized cargo plane was built to transport oversized components for NASA's Apollo missions. And when we say oversized, we mean it. Think Saturn I rocket stages, which, by the way, were so big they'd make a city bus look like a toy car. The Pregnant Guppy began life as a Boeing 377 Stratocruiser, but its makeover was epic. Engineers stretched its fuselage and gave it a triple bubble upper section, making its body as round as its nickname implies. The result was a plane with a cavernous cargo hold that could carry up to 34,000 pounds of gear, basically items as tall as a two-story house. This flying behemoth took its maiden voyage in 1962 and quickly became NASA's logistics hero, slashing transportation times by weeks. And at just $16 per mile, it was also a bargain for getting rockets where they needed to be. Though retired in 1979, the Pregnant Guppy's legacy lives on in its successor, the Super Guppy. Speaking of bizarre giants, wait until you meet the Super Guppy, NASA's next-level cargo titan. So far, we've covered some really bizarre aircraft, but for the Hafner Rotobuggy, all we can say is just look at it. Imagine rolling into battle with a flying Jeep. Yep, a flying Jeep. That's essentially what the Hafner Rotobuggy is. A bizarre and ambitious World War II experiment, this one-of-a-kind contraption was the brainchild of Raoul Hafner and aimed to turn the trusty Willys MB Jeep into an airborne powerhouse. He planned to make a Jeep with a colossal 40-foot rotor on top, making it look like a helicopter, and an off-road vehicle got fused into a wild science experiment. At just 21 feet long, about the size of a stretched-out SUV, it wasn't massive, but its purpose was mighty. Towed into the skies, this blitzy buggy managed to reach speeds of 70 miles per hour, which is actually faster than your average city drive, and soared up to 400 feet. That's higher than most skyscrapers. But let's not sugarcoat it. Early tests were rough. I mean, imagine piloting a jittery, vibrating Jeep through the air. And to make it even worse, despite some improvements, the Rotobuggy's fate was sealed when gliders, capable of heftier loads, stole the spotlight. Regardless, this audacious design wasn't a failure. As it proved, no idea was too crazy to explore, just too crazy to show up at an airport. So, which of these bizarre planes caught you off guard? The massive Spruce Goose, the UFO-like Avrocar, or the futuristic NASA Helios? Or maybe the flying pancake left you craving more aviation oddities. Let me know your favorite in the comments below. If you enjoyed these wild designs, don't forget to check out our video on rarest airplanes of all time you've never seen. It's packed with jaw-dropping aviation gems. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next incredible journey into the skies. Stay adventurous, keep exploring, and I'll see you on the next flight through aviation history.